God sent Peter to start the church, but then later God used Paul, and that the church started with Jews, and then it changed over to Gentiles. And we who are Christians today, according to Romans 11:13, are to follow Paul. 3 times in the Scriptures, Paul says, "Follow me." So why is the Catholic Church trying to follow Peter instead of Paul? Peter was the apostle to the Jews. There were 2 keys listed. This was the first key, was to Jews. And there was another key to Gentiles. And those who are saved today in the church are Gentiles.
In this passage, Mr. Breaker is saying that Paul told us 3 times to follow him because he was the leader of the Gentiles. But this is absolutely preposterous. He never says that anywhere. And if you read Romans 11:13, which he quoted in this section of the video, you'll see that it doesn't actually say that. It says that Paul is an apostle to the Gentiles. It never says we only have to follow Paul. He's making a distinction between Jesus and Peter and then Paul. And he's claiming that we need to follow Paul. This is absolutely inaccurate. The only thing that this means is that he was called and chosen to go minister to the Gentiles. But Peter himself was the one received and chosen by God to receive the Gentiles into the church. As we just mentioned in Acts 10, he was the one who received the revelation, not Paul, regarding the Gentiles of the church, and he's the one who welcomed them into the church. So we can't say he had nothing to do with the Gentiles because that's also inaccurate. Not to mention John 21, which we just mentioned, where Jesus gives him charge over all the sheep, not just the Jewish sheep, but all the sheep, because the true followers of Christ are part of the church, and the apostles were given to be leaders over the whole church, not just parts of the church. That's why in Acts 15:11, it's Peter who settles the matter of whether circumcision was necessary for Gentiles or not. They don't leave that to Paul. It's Peter. In fact, the elders would not listen, the scriptures say, to Paul and Barnabas, and they fiercely argued with them. They would not take their word for it. But when Peter came down and spoke on the matter, all people fell silent. Everyone was quiet and no one said a word. And only then could James speak up and speak on some of the ordinary disciplinary matters after that. But it was Peter who settled the matter on the Gentiles. This shows that he has authority in the church, not just preaching the Gentiles, but actual authority to settle matters. To me, he's going against the scriptures that he claims to go by. He's saying Catholics go by Peter, but we go by Paul. This is exactly what Paul condemns himself in 1 Corinthians 3, verse 4, where he says, some people say that they follow Paul. Some said that they followed Apollos. Some said they followed others. They were breaking off into different factions and say, oh, you follow Paul. Well, I follow this person. Oh, well, you follow that person. We follow this person. And Paul was chiding them for that. He's like, are we not all on the same team? Are we not all planting in the same vineyard? Some of us sow, some of us water, but all of it is grown up in the same vineyard for Christ. We're all working together. It's one church. It's not you versus me. It's not Peter versus Paul. And this attitude that he's promoting is exactly what's condemned in Holy Scripture. Further, he notes that one key was given to Peter and then one key was given to Paul, but he doesn't cite a single verse. Do you wonder why? Because it's not there. Nowhere in the entire New Testament does it say that Jesus gave a key to Paul also. He says in Matthew 16:19, I give you, Peter, the keys of the kingdom of heaven. What you, singular, bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and what you bind on earth, what you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. Notice it says he gave Peter the keys, plural. Peter, singular,